So thank you so much, guys, for being here with me today. My name is Corein Carter on the behalf of Forbes.com. And today we're talking about something completely different than what we know Mr. Mathew Knowles for. Obviously, we know he is a pillar in the community, a mega mind when it comes to the music industry. But we're talking about Black men's health today. I want you guys to go into the reason why we are here today and the purpose behind you guys coming together to talk about prostate cancer awareness.
Well, I'll start us off. You know, a lot of people don't realize that before I came into the music industry, 1980, I moved up in Xerox Corporation. We think of them as copiers, but they had the top-of-the-line division, Xerox Medical Systems, where we sold zero radiography, which was the leading modality for breast cancer detection, and was pretty good at it. It was the #1 sales in the world, actually. And then I sold MRI, and then I was a neurosurgical specialist. So I spent 20 years in diagnostic imaging, and you know most people don't know that.
Yeah.
So I have a true love of medicine first and foremost.
Yeah.
But then 5 years ago, I got diagnosed with male breast cancer. Very rare for men. And then I get diagnosed that I'm BRCA2 mutated, which means there's a variant in my genes that's off, which means I have a higher risk of prostate cancer, a higher risk of pancreatic cancer, male breast cancer, and melanoma. And a family history of my grandfather dying with prostate cancer, and my dad had 4 brothers, 5 brothers actually, and 4 of the 5 died of prostate cancer.
Wow.
And myself, I've had just recent as December a scare of prostate cancer with my PSA being higher than normal, which we'll get into, I'm sure, later in the conversation.
And I think for me, one of the things that I'm so excited about being here with Mr. Knowles is when we started talking, first of all, we both realized we're both breast cancer survivors. And yet at the same time, we know that breast cancer is talked about all over the place,
Yes.
right? The stigma around breast cancer has been removed enough that there is some really great awareness. People know that October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. But what most people don't realize is just as many people are diagnosed with prostate cancer as breast cancer.
Wow.
You have a 1 in 8 chance of getting diagnosed in breast cancer if you're a woman, or a 1 in 8 chance of being diagnosed prostate cancer with men. And both of us sort of come to it from this perspective of the pink ribbon side of it. And we've realized that we really need to raise that awareness for men, especially men of color and those at greater risk, because they don't realize that really they're at higher risk of getting the disease, and it can sometimes be more aggressive in some of those communities. And they're diagnosed earlier and younger. And so it's really important for both of us to sort of apply what we know from that space into a real public health crisis when it comes to men's health.
Yes.
And doing that through our role working here on behalf of Zero Prostate Cancer is really important for us because we know we can save lives.
I love this. This kind of rolls me right into the next question. You talked about it a little bit, but this is not something that's on the forefront when it comes to men, especially Black men. You being a pillar in the community, we talk about status. A lot of men do not speak on their health. When was the moment where it kind of clicked for you that you needed to be on the forefront and talk about the importance of taking care of your health, especially as a Black man?
I've always been that guy.
Love it.
I've always been that guy that would shut up, please, no more. No, it's always been important because that's the profession I came from.
Yes.
You know, most people again think of me as music, but that's really the profession that I was in, was really medical. And just the awareness that Black men don't have. When it comes to prostate cancer, we still think of the old way that they used to do a prostate exam. Well, that's not the way it's done anymore. It's really a simple needle 10 seconds, and it's done, a prostate exam. And I think a lot of it just has to be more information that's given, more awareness that's given that black men have. We don't like to say that we're frightened of needles, but we really are.
Definitely.
We really are, and I've done both. I've done a mammogram, and I've done a PSA.
Okay.
Give me a PSA any day. I think you probably could talk about that, Courtney. But it's really a simple procedure.
Yeah.
And we've had to take that stigma away. We've got to go to barbershops and go to the fraternities and to the churches, and we've got to yell and scream as loud as we can. That we want 100,000 lives to be saved in 10 years. That's our goal.
Love that. Love that.
And that goes to sort of what zero prostate cancer stands for, right? To us, that zero is really about zero stigma, because this is a disease that has a tremendous amount of stigma attached to it. And especially in men's health in general, there is a lot of data that shows that men interact with medical providers a lot less than women do.
Absolutely.
They don't necessarily have a medical home. And this initiative that we're launching, Blitz the Barriers, is really designed to remove those barriers and the stigma around knowing what your risk is. And then, of course, going to speak with your healthcare providers, being tested where appropriate.
Yeah.
And then if you are diagnosed with prostate cancer, especially in communities that have the largest challenges, that we can try and remove some of those barriers, the barriers to support and care and navigation, and like Mr. Knowles said, really save lives all around the country.
I love that.
Yeah, and it's important to understand the stages of cancer. You know, I was fortunate to be stage 1A when I found my male breast cancer. And as you go to 4 stages, I was very grateful, very fortunate not to have chemotherapy or radiation therapy. I took a pill for 5 years every day. But that's what happens when you find cancer at its earliest stages.
Yes.
Versus finding it at stage 4, the outcome is not the same. So I don't understand why anyone would rather wait until it's at its latest stage. I'm still baffled by that when I can just go get a needle to find out where I am, to evaluate what I need to do moving forward.
Yeah. And
for me also was a lifestyle change. You know, I wanted to lose weight, and I still have to work on that. it was tough this morning getting up and going down to the gym in the hotel, but I've forced myself because I want to live. I always tell myself, I want to live. That's why I'm getting up and going running this mile, because I want to live. And so a lifestyle change, and that's all a part of what we want to share with young men as well as older men. All of the different lifestyle changes, the different technologies and procedures that are out there to make this really simple.
So you guys both hit on something. Number one, stigmas and lifestyle change. We all know culture and Black culture, and sometimes when it comes to our culture, you get these stigmas or these things that are told to our community, such as you should man up or you should push through. And that forces people not to want to go, figure out what's going on internally specifically, or even with their mental health. How do we break down those barriers to helping people feel a bit more comfortable in wanting to take the step to make sure that everything is all right?
Yeah, I think for me, when you said that, man up to me means going to the doctor.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, you want to man up? Yeah, let's man up.
Yeah.
Let's go to the doctor. Let's go check ourselves out. Let's see where we are. Let's get an annual physical. Let's get a baseline. Let's do genetic testing. Let's do all of those things.
I think, too, one of the things at Zero we're really proud of is we have the largest network of support groups around the country, over 150 prostate cancer-specific support groups.
Nice.
And what we know is that when these men and people with prostates, when they feel safe in those groups, they do share.
Yeah.
And so what we've got to be able to do is, by having voices in the community, well-known voices, start to share their story you take away some of the power from the cancer and
Yeah.
you give the power back to yourselves.
Love it.
And when more people see those stories, that helps bring along that feeling of safety, and then they start to be able to share it within themselves. But we do know that. I mean, when I started at Zero, and we have multiple stories of our staff members where when they said they were coming to Zero prostate cancer, people said, hey, by the way, I had prostate cancer.
Wow.
Why are we whispering in this day and age, right? And there is nothing to be ashamed of.
Yes.
And in fact, when you really approach your prostate cancer and you catch it early, there are a lot of options that are available to you that weren't available.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not the treatment of your grandfather or your uncle.
Yeah.
There are a lot more options that really enable you to live a full quality of life when it's caught early. But I think the secret is more people have to share their stories and make people feel safe with sharing theirs. And we do know that, I mean, as somebody who's been in a cancer community for almost 20 years, that is the biggest area of support that you can give.
And to know that cancer is not a death threat.
Yeah.
You know, years ago, as you said, Courtney, we looked at cancer as a death threat. You could have a full life if you find it early. It's all about early detection.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we're talking about Blitz the Barrier, and you guys are doing exactly that. You have a $20 million initiative that's going to help close the gap and help people in high-risk communities. But what I want to know is, how do we keep Black men from surviving this disease altogether?
Well, I think one of the things that we're really proud of at Zero is Blitz the Barriers actually the largest single investment in prostate cancer support and public health interventions from a nonprofit in U.S. history. Wow. And what we're doing is we're really going to areas with greatest risk, areas where the disparity is the highest. So, for example, nationally, if you are a Black man, you are twice as likely to die of prostate cancer than your white counterparts. But in some communities, that number is even higher. I live in Atlanta, and in Atlanta, the number is 5 times higher than for a Black man to die from prostate cancer than a white man. And what we need to do is we need to apply what we know actually from other diseases. What people have been doing in breast cancer or in diabetes or in cardiovascular health. It just hasn't really been applied to prostate cancer. And so that means at Zero, we're going to be putting people into communities with greatest risk. We're going to be working on outreach and education. We're going to have community partners, and we're going to spread the word and help people get access to healthcare providers that can understand their risk, that can test and screen appropriately, and then, of course, if they are diagnosed, get them to equitable care and make sure that they have access so they can live the longest life. We always like to say at Zero that we want people to live the best quality of life and then as many years as possible as they can. And so this is a really exciting time for Zero, and we really hope that, you know, when we look back 10 years from now with our goal of saving 100,000 lives from prostate cancer, that what we can say is that we helped through this initiative to really change the face of what prostate cancer treatment and interventions look like, both at the community level, but also nationally throughout the system.
I love that. I love that. And I want to kind of tap into this with you, because you know that the community, especially high-risk communities, sometimes they can be very harsh on how you're connecting with them. So what are some of the initiatives that you guys are going to take to make sure that you're authentically connecting with these high-risk communities?
Well, I think that's a very good question. I hope one of the things that come out of this is others that have a platform speak up and speak out sooner, faster, quicker. That always in our community is helpful to see other people that we look up to that speaks up. And, you know, when you speak up, you give that power away. You let it go. And that's one of the reasons why I partner with Zero, is because I want it not to hold in that power that having cancer could give one. And I think we said it earlier, we want to go grassroots. We want to go into the neighborhoods. We want to go into the churches. We want to go into the fraternities. We also want to talk to wives.
Nice.
We want to talk to wives because we need their help. We need their help with partners that they'll listen to sometimes that might not listen to me. We want to blitz. I keep thinking of Philadelphia and how they won the game was constantly blitzing. Well, that's what we want to do.
Yeah.
At Zero, we want to blitz. We want to get the word out there with power, with energy. And it's so true how I do so many speaking engagements with female breast cancer, and I see the initiative and I see the organizational structure that women have with breast cancer. I admire that. But we've got to do a better job, and we will.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm excited to partner with
Yeah, I
you
think
guys.
partnership is really the key,
Yeah.
right? So, I mean, of course, you look at me and you're like, what's she doing here helping save Black men's lives? But the answer is we do it through partnerships because this cause and this need is so great. Zero prostate cancer isn't going to do it alone.
Yeah.
We're going to do it with great national and local partnerships. And I think it's really important that if we're trying to build trust in communities, which is what you're speaking about, that it comes from a place of authenticity, that it comes from a place of understanding. One of the things that we're doing through this initiative with Zero is, when we're putting people in communities so they can build those relationships and trust. Because as an organization, prior to this, we would sort of bring people in, we'd do programs, and then we'd leave. And that doesn't build trust in communities that you're going to be there and stay there.
Absolutely.
And so, for example, when we've been talking with some of our funding partners, like our lead founding partner, Novartis, that was a big thing that was important to us, is that we're like, if we're going to go into these communities and do work, we can't leave.
Yeah.
Like, we have to be committed for the long haul. And I think that through the conversations that we'll have both locally and nationally, and through our partnerships, it helps us build the trust in our communities, and then it starts to multiply, right? Like
Yeah.
when you have an authentic relationship and people can vouch for you and they go, okay, these people are legit.
Yeah.
They're not just swooping in here to tell us how to do things. Because we do know that there are communities and there are people and local community organizers that are doing really great work. What we want to do at Zero is come alongside them
Yeah.
and help them and amplify them. When we were talking about this initiative, we said there might be places in some of these communities where somebody's doing really great work, but they just need some extra support or some infrastructure
Right.
or maybe maybe some dollars. How do we come in and help make that happen? And I think that what we're really proud of as we've been designing this initiative nationally is that it's really designed with collaboration in mind.
I love that. So for the individuals that are hard of hearing, that may not receive the message so well, you might have a Black man out there that's a father, an uncle, a brother. What is one thing that you want them to take away from this conversation today?
I want them to take control. They have the power to take control of their life. The health profession is really changed where it used to be the physician had all of the power.
Yeah.
Now the patient has power as well. And the patient has rights. The patients can ask for certain procedures. Just recently for me in December, my PSA level was really high.
Yeah.
And my physician wanted me to wait another 3 to 4 months to get another exam. I took the initiative that no, I wanted to get a biopsy. And I got a biopsy because I wanted to know if I had cancer,
Yes.
prostate cancer. I understood the power of getting that diagnosis early.
Yes.
And fortunately and gratefully, I was okay. But I will be getting another biopsy in the next year.
I love it.
Because I want to know the information because I walk this path with male breast cancer. I see what happens if you find it early.
Yeah.
So I hope someone who's listening would want to walk that path with me of finding it early.
Love that.
And one of the things I think that we really believe at Zero Prostate Cancer is that, to your point, empowered patients make better doctors. And so what I would say to anybody who is considering this or listening to this or reading is, you have to understand your family history and your
Yes.
risk. If you are someone with a prostate, you're at risk of prostate cancer. If you have family history, if you are a Black man, if you're a veteran, you are at higher risk of prostate cancer. So the first step is to understand your risk and then to go have a conversation with a doctor about what are the appropriate steps you need to take, whether that's screening, whether that's watching. And for those of you who may not have prostates, who are getting this message, the answer is grab somebody in your life that you care about and take care of them. Because it does take everybody.
Yeah.
And what we can learn from our partners in other cancers is the more proactive we are, the better our outcomes can be. And we really want people to be aware of that.
And you can almost take word for word what Courtney just said, almost word for word, and apply that to male and female breast cancer.
Yeah.
Where, again, we are at higher risk. So it's
just health.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
it really
understanding
is.
your risk for any health condition
Yeah.
and being proactive about it.
That's the word.
And those lifestyle changes of diet and exercise and the mental component, isolation and loneliness becomes one of the number one reasons, one of the top reasons of death with cancer.
Wow.
I just was on a panel in Canada. So there's a lot we're learning.
Yeah.
There's a lot of research that's being done on prostate cancer and others. And I'm just really grateful and proud to be a part of Zero Prostate.
Yeah. And I think I want to end it off with a call to action. Because this initiative, you guys partnering up, this is absolutely incredible. And I know for a fact that we need more of this visibility in the community as a whole. So how do people get involved and how do people reach out to you to make sure that this could be a collaborative effort?
And with that, just before you answer, because that's a great close, because this is Forbes,
Yeah.
you can speak to how important it is for corporations like Novartis to invest.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I think there's multiple ways for people, companies, and organizations to be involved in this initiative because we can't do it alone. So if you are a business or a corporate partner, it's really important that we have investors in this initiative.
yes.
Because Blitz the Barriers is a pilot in many ways. We are going to learn things that will change the face of how we treat prostate cancer. And we are always looking for people to invest in those initiatives. If you are a community partner, both at locally or in one of our pilot markets, we encourage you to go to zerocancer.org/blitz. And you can reach out to us and let us know that you want to be involved as an organization or community partner or healthcare provider. And then, of course, if you are a person who is like, I love this and I want to help educate my community, I want to get involved, there's also opportunities for you to volunteer with Zero.
Nice.
And we would love to have you.
Love this.
And if you would like for me to come out and speak more
Yes.
to your organization, then you can book me to speak at MathewKnowles.com.
I love this. You guys were incredible, and I can't wait to see the expansion of this. Thank you so much for having me here today, and this was awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.